Okay, we're streaming now.
Can I put a
Oh, yep.
flasher? I'll just put it.
So.
Have we heard from anybody else?
So I did hear from Chris Parthamore and Adam that they are not gonna be able to make it.
Gotcha.
Who else does that leave us?
Looks like Robin and Sean.
Okay.
Did I see that Robin? I think maybe from social media. I don't think she's in town.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't think
She
so.
didn't say anything.
Could be wrong.
I text her.
We'll give Sean another minute or two and see if he'll be in attendance.
I do have some meeting minutes for you to sign, I guess, while we're waiting. Because I was bad and forgot to have you sign at the last meeting,
Oh, okay.
that those ones are approved. And then they sign the other ones later, so that happens. Thank you.
All right, why don't we go ahead and call to order. Chris, will you please read the roll call?
Ms. Carrington? Here. Ms. Lloyd? Mr. Daly? Mr. Stanley?
Here.
Mr. Steineman?
Here.
Mr. Sternberg?
Here.
Ms. Weichel?
Here.
Mr. Harris?
Here.
Ms. Newell? And Ms. Blair?
Here.
All right, we have the minutes that were transmitted via email. Are there any additions, corrections, or motions for that matter?
Motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. We'll move to old business. I guess I could start with this one, Aaron.
Sure.
If you guys recall back in April, I believe it was, we submitted for a Bloomberg Asphalt Art grant. We received notice that we were not selected for this round, although there were going to be further rounds coming out potentially early next year. With that said, if you recall, we selected Huron and Hancock Intersection, I believe is what it was. Come to find out, we did not, we were not granted ODOT approval to use that intersection because it's considered Route 6. Staff thought we would be able to gain that approval. Unfortunately, we were not able to achieve that. So with that in mind, our name is still out there. We still have additional opportunities for funding. We need to maybe start to consider in the back of our minds other intersections within the city that we discussed previously or ones we haven't that might fall in line with this next round of funding. There's no deadline to come up with this. I just want everybody to be aware that if we are selected, we will have to submit an updated location for the Asphalt Art Initiative. Any questions or comments? I'd be happy to entertain those.
Do you just like high level, what's the Asphalt Art Initiative? What's the parameters they're looking for that?
Yeah, so there was a whole set of guidelines, about a 100-page document that Bloomberg had, and they were looking at different criteria as far as safety and things of that nature, where art could also be inserted into the city fabric.
Got it. So on the street in the intersection for like traffic calming, public art sort of
Yes, and it was
pedestrian
up
safety?
to $25,000
Okay.
was the grant amount.
And you said there's no specific deadline that we're looking for, it's just, we're still in the running for selection maybe?
Yeah, for future.
Okay.
Yes, yep.
Would it be
future ones.
compelling to them if we resubmitted or refreshed with an updated location?
sorry, what was that?
Is there anything that could help us win it if we resubmit something or?
I don't think so.
Okay.
They didn't mention that in the letter.
So is this like an annual application, or would there be another time to review ideas and bring this back to the table?
Yeah, so I think this last year was one of the first years, if not the first year, and this was the second round of funding. They didn't mention a new application process for the next year. They just basically said that we're basically still on file with them. So as more funding becomes available through Bloomberg initiatives, they would distribute more to the next group of folks in line.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
So I guess the question would be is when that window of opportunity comes back open, when should we bring this back to the commission to review again?
Yeah, exactly. We'll take a look at it again, but we just
Okay.
wanted to kind of get the feelers out there for something to think about when you're walking around town. With that, we'll keep moving. City Hall Art Gallery.
Sure, I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that the art gallery is installed. And we got the artist names and everything up. Most of the art has been up for a while. It was a trial and error with some of the art pieces, which I can advise us towards if we're picking City Hall Gallery pieces for next year. But ended up, Marcia was really helpful with how to hang, it was Annetta's pieces, the aquamarine and magenta, and the size of them with the system that Mackenzie picked. But so far, I think that the infrastructure of it really blends into the wall really nicely, and it ends up being, it's a nice feature, and I've gotten good positive feedback, so just make sure everybody checks it out. That's all I want to say about it.
I think it looks great, and thank you, Marcia.
I have not been there. Oh my
She
God,
just-
I've been so busy.
Well,
but
she
I
fielded
will
like a dozen
I'll be
phone
there
calls.
Tonight. I will look tonight. Yeah, I've been burning the candle at both ends. So.
Yeah. Lots of
Happy
phone
here,
calls
it's
and
well
text
received.
messages and photos.
When does your show open? Just,
My show opens on the 29th, and I brought postcards for you guys. And I'm going back to Virginia on Thursday, so for a memorial. So I'm just got a lot going on. Sorry.
Great, glad it was well received. Hopefully it's the first year of many. Now that we can maybe hone the process in a little bit, now that we kind of see some of the faults that we've kind of hurdles we went through around the first time, so it's good to hear. Line Trust.
So an update on the Lane Trust Sculpture Program. Sarah Prout was the leader of, she leads Lane Trust, and she reached out to ask who could sit and help select the sculptures this year. So Brian and I talked about that briefly. She had a really fast turnaround. It was like 8 days or something that we had to do them over a weekend. And she recommended Marcia and Robin, since they're active artists. So I called Brian and thought what he was, and to kind of run that past him, and it sounded like a plan. So Marcia and Robin and I sat on that committee and Sarah had like 3 other people to select the sculptures. I would have preferred to bring that to all of you to talk about who would be on that committee, but like I said, it was a really fast turnaround, so we didn't have time before and after. So We went through, we had about 200 to pick from, and there was like a scoring system, and Sarah tallied them all up to pick the top winners, and then I think 3 or 4 of the ones we selected were sold already by the time, so then she was like last minute emailing us, okay, what's your next pick? But we got the 12 sculptures, and they have been installed this last week, so if you've seen any new ones come up. We did find some funding from the Firelands Health, purchased the one called Pulse from the last program down by the Adult Fitness Center in Shoreline Park, so that's gonna stay there in a permanent location. We just thought that Stu says we can talk without the mask. It looks really nice, like it looks just like it fits over there with the Adult Fitness Center, so Firelands Health made a move to purchase that one, so we get to keep that one, which is exciting. And I just want to let everybody know that those were going in. Sarah said that they usually make a map and a flyer, and that those are all in the works to show a walking route. And I think there's a Segway Tours does one. We have a new one in Douch Park now at the corner at Huron, and where like Wayne and Huron come into Washington. So that's a new location for the program this year. I think that's all I wanted to say about that. We did, that Lane Trust came up a ton, and I'm skipping ahead in our brainstorming session, so we can talk about that, but it's a great opportunity to maybe do an event around those, or some sort of walking tour or something this year, if we want to think about that in our work plan. That's the big update.
Yeah, just to build on the timing a little bit, what you were saying, I think we had already canceled the meeting for that month. Was that the August meeting? That was canceled, and then they called and wanted.
Yeah, it
Some
might have been. It
input.
was right around there, and she gave us like a week and a half to.
Yeah. I know in the years past, we've went through and selected here, and the committee members actually presented the locations for feedback prior to. We would approve the locations, but I did not bring that up to you, Erin, so that's my fault.
No, they didn't even, she just sent it to me and like, here's what all the locations are gonna be. So we didn't even get the opportunity to weigh in on which ones went where. The Lane Trust group
Gotcha.
did that. Or I think that they might have relied on the sculpture person, the
Am I
chair.
wrong?
of
Did
that.
we look at that in years past?
I believe so, yeah. I think we
Okay.
had input.
Yeah, I think last time we did it was, we formed a sort of subcommittee that selected and found placement.
Okay,
We had some representative, and they came back to the group, right?
Yeah, there was an advance enough time to be able to accommodate for that process.
yeah,
Sounds like timing was not good this year.
yeah, and that, my understanding was like 2 years ago, before COVID, the gentleman came and gave a presentation and came in person, and then this time it was just like through email again, like they did through COVID. So I'd like to see that, and now that I have a better relationship with Sarah, and I'm kind of been at the city for a while, hopefully that we can get ahead of it a little bit more next year, and get the Arts Commission a little bit more involved in that process, so.
Good. Any more questions regarding Lane Trust? Comments? All right, we'll move to new business.
Could I interrupt for one moment? The Susan Schultz bequest, the sailboat sculpture.
Yes. You had asked for an update on that. Sorry, I didn't put it on the agenda. So I met with Jason Whirling and Scott Cromer, Jason, who's the superintendent of rec, and Scott Cromer, who leads all of our, I'm not sure what his title is, but he leads like a lot of the maintenance crew and stuff like that. So we met over in Lions Park to pick a spot for it, this week, and talked about, so right at the end of the roundabout, there's the really nice, kind of sustainable native plant, and there's the turnaround. We talked about putting it right there to the left because there's some signage and there's benches, and it would look like it's kind of like floating on the water, and it's logically near some things that you would actually walk past it and be able to see it, and then also cars coming in would see it. So it's like a nice prominent place, but it's not in the middle of the nowhere. Like if you look all along the line of Lions Park, it's so like vast and open. I didn't want to just like randomly put it somewhere along the stretch of it, so we kept it kind of nestled into there, and he was going to work on installing that.
Okay, so it's still going. That's what I was.
Yes, but it has moved forward since you followed up, so it's not yet in place.
Any other items of old business? Okay, on to new business. Aaron?
Cool. Okay, so I made y'all a graphic of what we did last time. If you have questions based on the minutes of our brainstorming session. The highest overview is we extended this process one meeting. So the first time, our last meeting was kind of our brainstorm to come up with ideas. And then this one is more of a prioritization to say like what's most important. And then we'll still have the draft work plan. So we'll do the draft work plan next time and then the final work plan the meeting after that. So basically kind of added that brainstorming process. So we weren't trying to talk ideas and budgets at the same time because budgets kill ideas. But now we have to start talking about budgets and prioritization. So let me put this graphic on the screen so we have it. Anybody watching can take a look at that too. So basically what I did with the graphic is I took our poster with our grid. And for those of you that weren't there, everybody did Post-it notes, so like wrote down a bunch of Post-it notes. We put them all up on a board so everybody got a chance to read what what the ideas were out to the group. And then as a group, we moved those ideas from the kind of random board into this grid from less important to more important, easy to tough. And we started to like naturally group some things together. So when in making the graphic, I just made things like bigger and bolder as more people had mentioned the same thing. So for example, the Arts Festival, that's just like a generic moniker for 10 ideas that all started kind of lumping together. And underneath that, like for the Arts Festival example, like pop-up art show came up once, Arts Festival came up twice, Winter Arts Fest came up once. So that little list underneath the big bold font is some individual ideas there. So that one was really big. Jackson Street Pier came up a whole bunch. I think that was like 5 times. There was a conversation about Chalk the Walk, sculpture there that's like fish or nautical themed, something rotating. So maybe there's decorations that rotate for the seasons or on some sort of logical program, just sculpture in general. Columbus Avenue came up a bunch. Enhancing or building on the land trust program came up several times. So that's over on the easier side and closer to more important. There was an idea of like a meet the artist event, idea of purchasing more sculptures over time to add to our permanent collection. Enhancing kind of the walking map and maybe doing walking events to visit them, or like a launch event once they're installed, which I think we could even have the opportunity to do this year. Murals came up a whole bunch of times, so there was ideas for specific murals like Underground Railroad theme or marriage equality theme or the Greetings from Sandusky mural that we used to have that was unfortunately lost, the State Theater renovation and storm. Callahan Auto Parts, or some sort of like rotating vinyl mural program, or just murals in general. So those came up a whole bunch of times. What else? Performance art came up a bunch, and that was from like installations, like performative, to theater, to getting a bunch of people to have garage bands on their front porches and have a community event out in the neighborhoods, to open mic nights, to having live performance as a part of an arts festival. So that came up a bunch. And then there's a whole bunch of smaller things that were scattered around, and I tried to place them, and I have the board with me today if y'all want to see it, but try to place them in relative location of where we had prioritized them in that meeting. And I think it helps kind of start to look at like what are the priorities of this group. Also, not everyone was present, so if there's other ideas that we want to document, I think we still have time to do that. I would lean toward us thinking about what's one big difficult thing or one or two big difficult things we want to focus on, and then is there a couple easy things we want to focus on. But really, I'd look to y'all to kind of take it from there and see. I'll just leave this graphic up and go back to my seat.
Questions or comments?
Well,
Thoughts?
I do think the art festival, some kind of art festival is definitely really important. But that could be a combination of things like you have down here, so.
So my comment on the art festival idea, I thought we talked about this maybe back in the first or second year of this board, this commission, where we looked into that and spending dollars towards a festival like that was not exactly embraced. I think there was some legalities involved. And I thought that it was presented to us as if there was a nonprofit out there that wanted to start up Friends of Sandusky Art or what have you, then we could, allocate some dollars towards that.
Okay.
But for us to take that whole festival on, what's from a legality standpoint and from a manpower standpoint, would probably be too hard to overcome, I would think, in my opinion. The last part's my opinion.
I wonder if there's some way that we could have like some kind of art walk where people actually were going to studios and, could even be people's homes, showing their work in their home. Maybe there's a route.
I do know that there is a group that organizes like an art walk in Washington Row. I think it's monthly. And they have talked with Jason about doing some component of art walk either every week or frequently on the pier for the party at the pier. So the party at the pier will be the free concerts every week. It'll be every Thursday. They're trying to figure out how many they are able to do, but they're hoping to do like 13 of them, like June 4 to September 9 or something like that, 2022. So they have been in conversation with them about trying to get like little artist booths out as part of that whole experience, just for context.
We've talked about it in here before. That was the original art walk, and it used to be downtown, and then it got switched to Washington. And I never want to sound like I'm putting down crafts or whatever, but it wasn't really an art festival anymore. It was just, I don't know. It's, when I think of art, I'm thinking of paintings and sculptures and even ceramic arts. But it did become more of a craft fair. What's everybody else's take on that?
It's a bead stringing event.
It's a what?
Bead stringing event.
Yeah, it is. And I don't, that's important too, but it has a place. And I think that an art walk, like being able to go to a studio and see fine art, paintings, whatever, is quite different. And I guess that's what I would rather see.
That's when I think of an arts festival, I think of the Columbus Arts Festival because it's one of my favorite events that they do, and I lived there a long time. But it's definitely a fine arts festival.
Yeah. Well, the art walk started out kind of cool. We would have different events like Chalk on the Walk and different themes and stuff like that. And evidently there was some controversy over where people could set up their booth. No, you can't put your booth in front of my shop. I don't know. But yeah, it changed a lot. Because I used to be involved in it. But I just stopped because it wasn't really anything that I do, so.
Can I ask like a big picture thing here? Like what kind of budget are we looking at?
So I have the current budget that we have in the account for this group is $83,090.55. And we get 1% of the admissions tax collections, which our year-to-date on that is $31,000. And Michelle Reeder, the finance director, told me that she expects it to probably be closer to 40 because we get quarterly deposits into the account. And then because Halloween Weekends was still running so that their season's not totally over. So she said we can safely consider that we'll get 40 more. So we have about 120 to deal with, to play with. We did say that we were gonna suspend 50,000 for Columbus Avenue streetscape art last year in 2021. So if we want to do that, and let's just say that 50,000 is already like flagged for Columbus Avenue, that gives us like 70 to budget with for our 2022 work plan.
Well, I think Columbus Avenue is absolutely critical, and I could see even putting more money towards.
I agree. I would support putting another 50 towards it. Or how it would like, but that would leave us with 20.
But I mean, I think in terms of what I would enjoy, I guess I'm speaking personally, would be the Columbus Avenue streetscape and something at the pier.
I have a question though. You were talking about an art festival being too expensive. Why can't it be something where it's jurred and the people who are accepted have to pay a fee, like a lot of art festivals, to be in it? And food trucks want to come and sell their food. So I'm not sure what all we're paying for other than if you have to pay for the space at Jackson Pier or whatever. I mean, it's time, it's effort for sure, but I don't know. Most of the time with art fairs, people have to bring their own tents even and set them up.
I'd have to look back into the minutes and see what the issues were. I recall there was some type of legal issue,
Okay,
but that could be,
And I think you
someone's
brought up,
opinion 4 years ago.
you
yeah.
brought up the manpower thing. I don't think it's for us to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I were to read into what you're saying, we would be like a vessel to sponsor or support such an event, but somebody would have to be the driving force, like an organization or.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of where we settled years ago, but like I said, I have to go back and read through the why.
Okay.
So correct, so am I understanding this right? We couldn't actually, so your understanding is what, we may not be able to use these funds to fund something at the pier?
We
And
could,
as
it was my understanding that we could sponsor, we just couldn't wholly take care of the whole thing.
Okay, gotcha, okay.
This group couldn't
Yeah,
get
right.
together to
Someone else
produce the
was having
festival.
it, then we could pitch in towards someone else.
Okay.
Somebody's got to do the planning, logistics, all
Yeah.
that stuff that goes in.
Yeah.
And now that actually has to be an official entity or just individuals who are kind of, hey, I want to do this and I'll take it on?
I don't know what
Okay.
the official was. I know that
Okay.
there was a comparison to Friends of the Greenhouse was kind of a comparison there.
Got it.
That's just a volunteer group, right? It's not like they don't have a 501c3, I don't think. Like the volunteers that do Washington Park and stuff.
And the Pride Festival was just really Robin and Nikki last
You're
year.
right. That's
Right,
what-
they had, that was like their board, I think the two of them did most of it. And then the year before that, they had like 4 or 5 people that were kind of on a board. So maybe, we could put it out there. So one thing that the work plan for 2021 had was like an artist grant, that there was budget flagged for an artist grant, so an artist-led grant. We could broaden that language and call it, artist-led or like for public art or a fine arts event, so that there's money available if a group did coalesce and want to try to produce an arts festival. That's something that would be an option. And we can look into, I can ask Brendan too, about the law director, about the legal issue with how to fund something like that or produce something like that.
I would agree with Cable though on the Jackson Street Pier and the Columbus Avenue initiatives. I think those are pretty important coming up with some of the strategic planning considerations.
I do agree with that too. I wasn't at the meeting, unfortunately, I'm sorry. But the interactive art, I don't know, like, since we started bringing up stuff way back when we were talking about like that recycling, like Bessie project, I just think something, I know I have children, so it's easier for me to, like, but I think something, like, we've been to other states and cities, and I think something interactive is so fun for them, like, even if, I mean, I know the pier, the grass is like, not, we can't touch that, but like, I think something like down there where that draws a lot of people, something interactive, even like, I don't even know, down by Shoreline, or, I just think that the interactive stuff is kind of neat. Like, I would love to see something like that, whether it be at Lions Park, I mean,
Are there
anywhere.
examples that you can say, like, what do you mean by interactive? Just because it can mean a lot of things.
Oh, like, this is just in our own city, but, like Osborne Park has like that little area where there's like music, like way back, like
Oh, yeah.
kind of in the back. I don't
Yeah,
mean, it doesn't have to be
yeah.
like that, but something where like families are, just hanging out and the kids just get to sit there and, play. I know we were in Tennessee one time and there was like a giant like piano, like from Big, like and the kids like could jump on it. And I don't just mean music, but just almost kind of like not a museum thing, but like just something fun, like for the kids to climb on, or, but it's like, it looks like art, it's more of like an art sculpture, but it also can be used for people to interact on and families, families to.
Well, I know in Charlottesville, there's, in their old town, they have this giant chalkboard that people, I've thought about that, but I thought, well, are people just gonna take advantage of that and do weird stuff? But whenever I've been there, it's been really fun, and people have written great messages and drawn pictures and things like that.
They might have like a clean and safe program with somebody out there every morning to erase the.
The what?
They might have a clean and safe program or some dedicated maintenance group that's out there every
Yeah.
morning. I bet they do, just to make sure there's no F words in the
Yeah.
morning, or other drawings.
Yeah, I don't know, like, I guess this is, along the lines of like sculptures and things, but, and please forgive me, I'm not a super, like, major, like, arts person, but I remember something that did catch my eye, and it was in downtown Charlotte, and actually I took a few photos, in it or with it, however you want to look at it, but they even had like these sculptures, if you would, and one of them was actually like a really large pencil, which was super neat, and I forget what it had on it, but it had, had something engraved in it, and then it was even kind of neat because they had like this, they had this large book, and I actually remember sitting in it, and then I put a caption like on my own and said like, my story isn't finished yet. So it's kind of just, I think just cool, I guess, like maybe, would that be considered, I mean, you can interact with that type of sculpture,
Like a photo op.
It kind of just takes it a step further than, looking at it and admiring it. So I think that might just be something really cool. But downtown Charlotte they got a lot of cool things there that it really stood out to me. And that was even years ago, even prior to me really paying attention to any of this as I might now. So, but yeah, so that might just be a note worth taking.
Yeah, nice.
So we've talked about Columbus Avenue, Jackson Street Pier, Art Festival. What about murals? That was another one that came up high.
Aaron, real quick, can I finish on
Yeah,
Columbus
please.
Ave? I know we talked about setting aside 50. It was my understanding that we were looking to carry money from year to year until the big project on Columbus. What are everyone's thoughts about that? Are we still on that path to carry over, or are we talking for our work plan, something on Columbus Ave next year?
I do recall kind of discussing the carryover until we could do something that's
Really big.
substantial like that, if I remember our conversation.
And I guess my question to Aaron would be, from a dollar figure standpoint and a timing standpoint, does it make sense to start holding it back now?
Oh,
Or
I
do
would
we have
say
some more
yes.
time to maybe spend money this year and hold back next? I don't know.
I mean, it really depends on what you want to do. So let's talk about a hugely impactful, some big juried, commissioned, interactive arts piece at the corner of Market in Columbus. I mean, you could pay 150 grand for something like that, maybe 75, right? To like get a known artist, you know what I mean? You're not going to just
Yeah.
throw something together. I don't know what that, so like, it could, what if we do, maybe there's something small and there's something at each intersection, so there's 9 smaller things. Well, if those are, most of the Lang Trust sculptures are 10,000. So let's just say those are 10,000 each, just for, because we have that number to work with. That's 90,000 if you want to put something in every single one. You know, I don't, like, there's, in the downtown plan, there's a stage at the end of, like, right at the water. Would you want to do something down there with like a big, like, welcome to Sandusky interactive graphic selfie art thing? I mean, I would think that that's probably in the 50 to 75 range. If it's just like a super graphic, if you want to build the whole stage, that's probably, I don't know. I would guess more on like the 500,000 because you're going out into the water. You know what I mean? So like, I think you could, there's a lot of range that you could bring to the table for that project. If we have the RFQ out now, we're getting responses October 27th. We're hoping to get the project awarded, the design process awarded in December. And we're expecting it to take basically 21 to design it, or 22 to design it. So construction wouldn't even be happening until 23. And we want the Arts Commission on like a steering committee or, you know, with feedback for the design process. And that would start to like, I think, draw a picture of how you want to spend your money on it. And it might just be, if it gets to a point where like we're in the streetscape, we're holding a place for the Arts Commission to organize a process to jury or commission a piece for the streetscape, that wouldn't be till like 24,
Would
But
that
we need
be,
those
I
funds.
would think.
Okay.
And that's rough. 24, 25 is when you're going to spend your money. So
so the question is, with that big ticket item on the horizon, what other ancillary items we can fit into the project schedule for
Right.
the time being? Like I mean, like the electrical boxes is like almost like a low hanging fruit, or the graffiti wall or something like that, or the murals. I mean, are there items we can kind of punt the big ticket thing for a little bit and then focus on some of these smaller items, easier to do?
I mean, you held 50,000 last year. I guess I could say we, because I'm a voting member too, but, so we held 50,000 last year for Columbus Avenue. We could just hold that and let that carry through, or we could add a little bit more to it, kind of like a savings account. I would recommend if adding more to it. I mean, if you end up with extra budget that you don't spend in 24, 25, then you can spend it on something else, because then all of a sudden you had this savings account basically. But I mean, that we're all a group, and the commission, it would be the commission's choice. If you think it's more impactful to spend that over time rather than save it up, I don't know. That's a hard one, but I would think that you'd be in a better position if you have 150 grand to spend on Columbus Avenue than,
Yes.
75, right?
Cables, you have something?
No, I just pretty much agree with Aaron. I think banking more money for a bigger presence on Columbus Avenue is a prudent idea.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so maybe just focus on something small for next spring or whatever our timeline is.
So it sounds to me like the Columbus Ave, this large project is gonna be on this upper right quadrant for the next couple of years.
I think so.
when we do this. So that's good that it's there, and maybe we can start, setting aside more dollars, so we do have those funds when time is right.
So if we have 120 to play with, and we're definitely saving the 50 we said we were going to for Columbus Avenue, that gives us 70 left. So we start thinking, like, what do you want to put back? And we're sketching, right? This is not set in stone.
Yeah.
If we want to put some back to add to that Columbus Avenue savings account, how much is that? And how much do we want to leave ourselves to promise for 2022?
So I guess we can think about that as we start to talk about
Yeah.
these other projects. So, sorry, back to.
No, that's helpful. I think, can we do the City Hall Gallery real quick? We budgeted 1,000, we spent 684 on it. I think we added $20 more. So like $700 is what it costs, but that was mostly the installation equipment. So I think it's gonna cost pretty much very little, maybe $20 if we need more cables or something for next year. So do we wanna say for sure we wanna keep doing that, we wanna do that next year? That's an easy, like, yes?
I would think so.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that was good.
I can put like a $200 budget on it or something really small, just to make sure that in case we have to replace any of the hardware, we have budget in there to do that. Does that seem reasonable? Just for a sketch, we can
Yeah.
Change it later, okay. So that's easy. That's an easy yes. Okay, go ahead, Brian.
No, I was gonna let you touch on murals before I interrupt you again about.
Oh, well, I do know that I've heard some interest in, can we get the Greetings to Sandusky mural back? Like as it was, or could we refresh it, have the same artist paint it again, but like refresh it a little bit? If that happens, where would it go? There's definitely some buzz about that. I don't know how y'all feel about that. That's just one thing hanging out there. I do know that Lake Erie Shores and Islands is very interested in putting a graphic or a mural of some sort on the west side of their building that faces a vacant lot down on between Water and Shoreline. So they might come to you and ask you if you're willing to spend this $10,000 that was budgeted in 2021 for an artist-led grant. So they might approach the Arts Commission and ask for that $10,000 to do that mural, do a mural there. I told them, when they asked me about it, I was like, well, I've heard some interest in the Greetings to Sandusky mural. I don't know if people would be excited to see that come back, but it would be a good place for it since that's our visitor center. So that was one thing that came up. And then overall, just the interest in murals in general, I think that there's a procedural holdup about murals. So the way that you get a mural approved is through a variance process in our sign code. So it's not the most intuitive, or, it's cumbersome to actually be able to create a mural. So that's one thing that's hanging out there. Another, in which I don't even know if we'll break into that until we update the whole entire zoning code. Because as soon as you start talking about one thing that needs updated in the zoning code, then you're talking about 20 things. And then people are like, hold on, we can't do that right now. Let's just wait till we update the zoning code. So I don't know if we'll get to changing that anytime within the next couple years, but I know there's interest in seeing more murals, and one idea that came forward was seeing if we could get the Arts Commission to review the content of murals before they were approved, because there's really no approval process to what art would go up on a building. And then there's Landmarks Commission. So, I mean, if you're gonna put a mural downtown, there's a lot of hurdles to jump through. But I think it's, a valuable effort because they're cool. I like them, and I wrote murals in my ideas too, so. That was a lot of talking without saying much, but.
Well, isn't there like, in the city, there's only certain buildings because of,
The historical element?
yeah, that you can put murals on. I guess the Lake Erie Shore and Islands, especially because it was rebuilt in part, you can put one there. But there's a lot of great buildings that would be great for murals, but I guess we have to get approved where we can put them.
Is that where the rotating vinyl came into play?
So
With historic?
I brought up a rotating vinyl program because I thought it might be a little easier to do than a painted mural. They have one in Columbus in the short north, and they have designated locations where I'm gonna guess it's like a 15-foot by 8-foot, something like a portrait orientation series of spots, and they have a program where artists, submit their work, and then it's like a juried selection, kind of like how we did City Hall Gallery, and then they print those vinyl murals and put them up, and they're up for a season or something. And that is something that they do, and I think that that's probably how they get around the fact that they have a bunch of historic buildings and a historic commission that's not going to want to see paintings on all their buildings, but they think they have like a dozen through the short north in Columbus. So I would be curious if there's, if y'all think that that's a good idea, of if we could select, maybe we select like 4 places that we could do something like that and price out how much it would be, and a process for approving art to put up a program like that, I think would be pretty cool.
I like that idea, and the ones I didn't even know they weren't painted until occasionally you'll start to see something peeling, but at that point, it's probably time to come down, so, and you can take it down, so, and they look great, so, and people like to take their picture in front of them, and
Are they like freestanding or are they on?
They're actually
on
like
the thing?
attached to the building, so when you
Okay.
look back, it looks like a mural, you can't even tell.
wow.
And you
It
get up
looks
to the
painted
building,
on.
and you can tell, like, it's adhered to the brick, you can
Oh,
see,
wow.
like, it is, it's like a giant
It's a heat
sticker.
thing.
So it's
Yeah, they like heat
yeah.
applied.
So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like the LeBron James graphic on the side of the building in
Okay.
downtown Cleveland. Is that sort of how it, is anybody familiar with that?
I know what you're
I've seen
talking
LeBron,
about.
but
But yeah, I
I've seen
think
like-
that's what it is though.
Might be
Okay.
wrong.
Yeah, so it's like a thin, it doesn't have a frame, it's not separated from the building, it is like on the building.
stuck on it.
It looks just like a mural, it's wild.
With the potential limitations of the building, historical element and compliance and stuff like that, would it make sense to say like any surface? So you think about the electrical boxes, it's kind of a similar type thing, like any sort of public owned surface would be appropriate for this initiative?
You can create vinyl applications that cover art boxes. I think in those cases, since there's so many sides and shapes to them, it's probably cheaper and easier to paint them if we have support to
Okay.
do that. I think there might be some pushback, but I'm totally willing to have that conversation internally if y'all think that that's a valid, or, you know, that you want to pursue that and put it in the plan, or at least between now and when we draft the plan, I can ask around and see what people think
Okay.
about painting those or putting that in our work
Now,
plan.
how is it with like, I guess with like privately owned buildings? Is that something that typically, I mean, only if the owners come to you kind of deal? Or has there ever been, are there cases, I guess in other cities where property owners are approached with the idea just to see if they might be open to it? I only say that because I think actually like one cool building is the one that sits right on the corner of Jackson and Water, the gray building. It's a super clean building and it's just gray, you know?
Oh, the gray
But the
concrete
visibility
building?
is great,
Yeah.
yeah, you know, so just something like that. And it's got,
The
I
old
think,
glass company.
yeah. And it's just, and it's just like a, I suppose
storage.
it's just like a warehouse, you know?
Yeah, I think they're using it
So-
for storage.
So maybe something like that, you know, might be an idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that if, whether we want to pursue, one scenario might be, you know, Arts Commission saves budget, they want to pursue a mural, commissioning a mural. And in that case, maybe we do a work plan where we just say, okay, we're going to hold this budget to commission a mural. When we actually go to do that, we talk about where we think it would be good. We name that building, we name like 5 other buildings, and then we call those property owners and say, hey, how would you feel about having a mural on your building? Are you willing to, you know, here's what those logistics are like, because we did some research on the type of paint or structure or how long it would last and whether they would be in charge of maintaining it or not and that sort of thing. Or if the artist is on the hook for that, if we have the artist touch it up for 5 years, if it gets messed with, or, you know, how's that all work?
Yeah.
And I think absolutely you go to the building owners and ask them, but you'd probably have a couple locations in mind, so if you get told no a bunch of
Definitely,
times.
yeah.
And I think similarly for a vinyl mural program, we would do the same thing, right? Pick a bunch of locations and then go and call building owners and say, hey, what do you think? If there's anything where we want to paint murals onto, and even with the vinyl, I think it would be a good idea to go to Landmarks Commission and have a conversation with that. And that's something maybe Brian and I could do, because I go to the Landmarks Commission as staff anyway, that, you know, Brian or somebody from the Arts Commission could go to Landmarks and talk to them about this program and say, hey, we're thinking about doing this. What do y'all think? Do we have your support? What do you want to know from us before these things start going up? If they're gonna go up on historic buildings.
Aaron, hate to put you on the spot, but since we are talking budget dollars and things, the rotating vinyl, do you have any idea what a 15 by 8 would cost so we can start to gauge, or would you have to look into that?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Speaking from Fireland's standpoint, this is for my work hat, but we just did a bus wrap, and I want to say it was like somewhere between 5 and 10K for a bus wrap.
Bus.
For a bus,
Yeah.
that's helpful.
So I mean, that's a really rough estimate,
Yeah,
but you
but
know,
that
it
means,
could vary.
It seems like if it's 5 to 10 to wrap a bus, that's got a lot of nooks and crannies and things that would make it bubble and weird.
Yeah.
So maybe we could guess that it's for sure less than 5, maybe probably more than 1,500, less than 5 each, maybe.
Yeah, I
Even
mean, for
1,500 sounds like a
rough
lot.
numbers, we could probably just plug a 5 in
Yeah, I can
for each
call,
one.
I'm actually supposed to call her for another reason, but I'll call the leader of the Short North Arts District, because she was one of my mentors in college. I'll see if she'll give me some numbers.
I think that rotating program would be pretty nice.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay,
I do too.
okay.
Doesn't seem like it's intrusive on the building owner.
Yeah, those were my thoughts, yeah.
Okay, we'll do some more research on that.
Any other comments on the murals? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Rick.
Your chair. I'm just mounted.
You're running the new business.
That's true. Okay. So we have some logistics, legal issues to look into the arts festival. We're not sure we're gonna put a bunch of money into something like that, but maybe we could help facilitate an event that featured fine art more prominently, and we'll do some research on that. We definitely want to hold back what we said we would for Columbus Ave and probably add more to it, but we don't know what yet. We're kind of working backwards. We definitely want to do the City Hall Gallery. We like the vinyl murals idea. We're going to do some more research on what that would cost for each one, so then we can help size it. How many do we want to do? What's that look like? What else is on here? What about the Lang Trust program? So one thing that Eric had thrown out there, which I thought was a really cool idea, is what if we launch some sort of time frame where we're like, oh, here's where all the sculptures are, go see them, then tell us which one's your favorite, and then we'll like collect those responses and then take that feedback into account, and then the Arts Commission take public feedback into account, and then also talk amongst ourselves and say, we're gonna buy one every year. And use those to like move more public art pieces out into the neighborhoods, because the Lang Trust will continue to be a program that's more centrally focused on downtown, because they want to be like all walkable and close. But if we add to our permanent collections, we can start picking other places to put public art on city-owned property and public parks throughout the city. Is that something that? So that's
I like that
basically
idea.
like the headline of that is like buy one every time, and that's gonna be about 10 grand.
I
Like,
think when the community's like involved, that's always a plus. You know, if we're using like feedback from everybody else. I've always thought like the walking map, like, you know, something, even the meeting the artists. I think that's kind of a neat idea to even have, I mean, because I honestly have not done the whole walking thing. We've driven by and I'll say like, oh, there's this one, but like it'd be neat to kind of have something that's legitimate, you know, something that could be like an actual activity that people could search out and do.
I like the thoughts of that, of the yearly kind of public engagement, as well as the yearly purchase. It serves as kind of a baseline for the city that we're pro art, if you want to call it that, but we're engaging the community, but also moving the permanent pieces into the neighborhoods at sporadic locations. I think it's a great way to set the baseline, and we can kind of keep that in the City Hall Art Gallery, personally, in my opinion, to keep kind of the baseline of
I would
art,
like-
part of the community.
I would like to put the caveat out there that I don't think we need to buy one every year, because if they're not a good grouping, I mean, it's kind of luck of the draw with what you get from them.
I'll add to that too. There's the part that when we get it, like right now, they're sort of in a temporary state where they're not like memorialized or whatever, where they don't have like a name. If we were to purchase one, it might be respectful to give it more of a nicer platform and maybe a name with a placard or something, so it might
Yeah.
increase the cost too.
Yeah, because I went around and looked at the sculptures last week, and some of them aren't placed well, aren't mounted well, had, you know, reused bases that had way more holes in them than they
Yeah.
should.
Yeah, I think if we bought them, we could take it upon ourselves to remount them, because they are mounted temporarily, that's their
Yeah.
intention.
And that could affect the cost overall, just something to consider.
It's a good point, Cable.
I don't see any reason not to budget for it, but I don't think that we're gonna have one to buy every year, just based on kind of what we've seen so far.
Would there be like a maintenance then every year, like if, because right now, they'll leave, but like if we did buy one, not every year, but like, at one point, would there be like something that would have to be budgeted for maintenance every year?
That's
Or a
something I
couple times a
can
year
ask
or
Public
something?
Works. I know that when they install them, they're for temporary, like the one called Red Feather already blew over by the library and they had to come out and give it a bigger
That happened
base.
to another one by the something else by the library a couple years ago with
Yeah,
those
one of the
people.
birds. I think
Or
somebody hit one of the
something.
birds.
Okay, I remember
and
another
it
one, like,
toppled,
tipped
yeah.
over.
And then apparently the one at the end of the Chesapeake blew over a bunch, so they moved. That location is now right at the Sandusky pathway in front of the Chesapeake.
Okay.
So, but we bought one from this last collection, which is the Pulse there's several that I think are cool that are worth purchasing from this year. So maybe if people think that it makes sense to budget for it, and then we may or may not buy one. I did have a question for you all, because in the project number 3 from the 2021 work plan, there's partner with the Lang Trust for a sculpture exhibit for $10,000. And do we give them $10,000 to run that program? Is that something that we are gonna owe them now?
I
Or,
thought the whole program was 10 and we contributed
Yeah.
towards it. I don't think we paid for it.
Yeah, I don't
No,
think
'cause
we
I mean,
did.
that
but
would
their
be-
program is 10, but it's not all of our.
I think we contributed something.
Because Sarah she has not asked me for any money.
I think the
I don't
whole
remember even
project is 10.
contributed
Was it?
anything.
Yeah.
I always thought it was like their donation, but she wanted to include us, like, in the process. I thought that money came from like the Lang Trust.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
they were
Might want to circle
purchasing.
up on that one.
I thought so,
Okay.
right? Maybe I'm
So
wrong.
do you,
I mean, I'd be all in favor of contributing whatever we did before, but I don't think it was
I
10,000.
don't think it
okay,
was.
well, this says partner with the Lang Trust for a year-long sculpture exhibit similar to the 2020-2021 Midwest Sculpture Initiative. So was this something in addition to what the Lang Trust Sculpture Program?
Not
Do you remember?
Not that I know of. I think that was kind of the
Well, you can certainly check with Sarah.
Yeah.
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 And just say, we're not trying to shirk.
That was the program.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay,
But if I recall from other years, the whole project was 10.
okay. I'll ask Sarah about it just in case she was counting on us for something, but she hasn't asked because she's shy. She doesn't come across as shy, but, okay. So I'll ask about maintenance requirements if we did end up purchasing sculptures long-term, and if there's any pushback. But I mean, that idea was coming from Eric, so I think he'll clear the way for us, but it is good to know what that obligation would be.
Did you
Okay.
say that we did purchase one?
So Firelands Health purchased the one that is in Shoreline Park, that's in front of the
The-
adult fitness. Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
it's called Pulse, and it just looked like it fit with that
Yeah.
adult fitness center so well, they purchased it
Okay.
to remain there permanently in that location.
So it was a purchase and then a donation to the city?
It was
Who
a-
maintains that?
That's a good question. That's a good question, I'll ask. Because I don't know if they because the adult fitness park there is a Firelands project, and I don't know if they are maintaining that, if the city's agreeing to maintain that. Like, they might have purchased it all and donated it to the city. So that would be my assumption, but I don't know that.
I don't know either.
All I know is that I connect Jeremy with Ken, the guy that leads the sculpture program. That's all I did.
Gotcha.
But if they donate it to the city, then Eric would have to read it in the manager's report to a city commission meeting. So that might be in their minutes too. I'll ask around. I'm sure somebody knows. Okay. Are there other things? Are people getting hungry? It's 6:15. We've been at this an hour. Do you want me to just document what we've done and start drafting a plan and then see what else we've got left if we want to add to it? Is there others that you want to make sure that we talk about tonight before we're done?
Yeah, I mean, unless anybody has any strong feelings on anything else on the list, speak now, or we can proceed with having Aaron move forward with a drafting work plan. We can still talk about it next time.
Yeah, looks like a good start.
Okay. Then I would motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Brian?
Anybody want a postcard?
Yes, I would like one.
And I'll go look at the artwork.
I know, me
I
too.
gotta get back with Karen, but thanks for that.
All right, man. You said, how's it going?
I said have a good
Oh,
one.
yeah, you as well.
All that
Man.
stuff, it's like,
Yeah.
I very honestly
Yeah,
didn't
you as well.
myself, so.
especially when you're not connected with us.
No, I mean,
Okay.
I'm happy to sit down with you and do all that kind of stuff too.
All righty, thank you.
Yeah, if I have any questions, I'll let you or her know.